having done those big acrylics recently, very loose, I want to have a go at some watercolour again. And I saw a Chinese artist recently doing a wonderful method where he's lifting out, using a lot of lifting out of the painting, which is something I only do occasionally. Whether this paper will take it, I don't know. I'm using some hot press, £140. I'm going to use the Russian paints again, the Sonnet, and paint a scene with a white egret and some carp and goldfish, and try this method of lifting out very heavy, strong paint and just tinting in afterwards. See if it works. If it does, I'll show it to you on video. If it doesn't, it's going in a bin. Simple as that. Just to have fun, just to experiment. Unless we take risks, we can't move forward. So let's see what happens when we try this technique out. So I've drawn out a basic here. A composition that I want is fairly loose. I should be able to do very loose brushwork. I want to be very much about the brush as much as about the paint. I'm going to start with one of the lighter areas here. I'm going to keep fairly simple brush strokes. So I'll start with a very light blue. I should blend these later. I just want to work both lifting out and blending and wetting to wet, the whole gamut. But I really would like to try and keep to very simple brush strokes all the way through. Almost single strokes if I can. If it's possible or not, we shall see. Right, let's mix up some of that violet and a little bit of Prussian that I was using just now, and we'll drop that back into here. If we can, we'll do that again in almost one stroke. If we're trying to make west meet east, we want to be very much about these beautiful brush marks. Now the Chinese, of course, wonderful memories, and they study something for a long time and then they just go away and paint it without even looking at colours, without even studying anything else. They've got it all there in their heads. Regrettably, I am not as clever, and I'm having to use studies to work from, but then with my way of working, which is very much about the subject and an impression of it, not a copy of it, I'm hoping that this might still work. What I want to do is work this colour against the background, because I eventually want this to be quite dark against it. It's purely experimental. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but we shall see. So we can still lift out. Yes, I haven't even done any lifting out. I'm still just putting wet into wet and adding on here. So I don't promote this as being the way to do it. Not at all. I'm just saying here is another way that I'm experimenting with, that if it works you might like to try. Gradually building up these darks as it goes on. Beautiful colours. We're going to use these deeper colours in just a moment in amongst the water. No idea if it will work. We'll see. Still blend. Hopefully I can blend that back into that. And this is about lifting out. I'm going to be doing a bit more of this later. This blending and lifting out. Nice and strong. And strong colours using these Russian colours if I can. Right. While that's drying, I'm going to work straight into the rest. Don't mind if it floods a little bit, because I really want to start getting in these lovely dark colours behind here, and I'm going to actually work around the bird now. To do that I want to just wet the paper totally first of all, so I want lovely wet into wet effects for this. So we'll leave the tips of those feathers all the way around there and let that flow down there into it. Not worried about that. Right, that's better, we've got the light off the paper at least. And let's carry on now. I want the effect of reeds in the background, so I'm going to take some yellow ochre there and start to bring that down into this really strongly. And this is why I want to come around the shape. I want to really come around this form of this bird. These slightly sharper edges at tips of the wings. Much darker in just a moment. Just see my drawing. I mean, the Chinese wouldn't draw, they just go straight on with the brushes and draw with the brushes and put the colours straight in. So I know I'm not that clever, I don't pretend to be. I'm just going to try and get these beautiful colours working here. At the moment it's nearly all verticals. I should be doing some horizontals in a moment. You know, I tend to paint my water this way, and then we'll have these lovely dark shadows that's coming up right round through here. Hopefully we can still find our fish underneath. Here we'll start to just lift out some of these ripples of water coming through the reflections. My vertical strokes first then, and then we'll bring in the horizontal ones. I'm going to use water, clean water, to soften those down a bit more later. Just get this working first of all. The shadow of the bird, I want a really strong shadow down here. So I'm going to really put some darks in around the edge of these wings here. I don't want too many marks, we're going to do too many marks. I want to say just all we need to say with one brushstroke if we can. I'll have so many brush strokes in here. Now, this is where I wanted to play with these carp and start lifting out the shapes of the carp if we can find them, and we'll start to see if we can get the effects of these fish down here. Different papers handle differently, that's the trouble. So we, you know, if I do this with this paper, it may not work for you with a different paper. This is an Archer's hot press, and it may not work for you in the same way at all otherwise. Now let's start to really get some strength of colour so I can lift out these shapes underneath. Right, now let's start to see if we can find these fish. But the idea is now to be able to lift them out. And then I might have to do what the Chinese do and try and just find them in here. So if I use my brush now to lift out that fish there, his tail is just coming back here and disappearing into the... to really try and lift that out. I've lost my other fish a bit. Let's have a look now. He comes right round from here. There's another one. Just take out these rays of the fins with the edge of the brush. Bring him round here. A couple of fins, we've got this big pectoral here. And we've got the adiposes back here, and the light of the fish just coming on round. We'll get these lifted out first and we know where they are. Okay, I'm going to have to go the Chinese way because I can't see the fish anymore, and hope that I can just get my composition right by lifting out. But you can't lift this stuff out as easily as some papers. We get the ghostliness of these fish under the water. It's just getting used to it, to get the paper wet enough and just try to lift out these. It might just do enough for me to get the ghostly forms of these fish underneath. I'd like to get whiter paper, but I just cannot get the paint to lift any more than this at the moment. If I do it, and this is my first time trying it, I'm sure you can have a go at it as well. Unless you just think what I've done is so awful that you don't even want to bother, which might be the case. I'm swinging round this way, I think, just to lead the eye into the bird. Here. And the fish just lurking up here out of the depths. We've got to start getting these little goldfish as well that are here, that I want in. So we're painting an abstract picture, we're just looking now at where these shapes of the goldfish can come one to another to help my composition. Okay, let's start to look at the stronger colours in some of these fish now. See if we can start to pick them out. Just want to hint at these things, not overdo them, just hint at them. So I'm going to be using much more opaque paint over these fish now. And that should be rather fun against the warmth as well of the... You can keep to fairly single strokes, and we've got to look at these scales as well. coming onto here. Lovely carp, mirror scales. It's a pity I can't lift out any more than this. I'd like to get some much lighter lights out, but maybe I've got to try a different paper, because this paper isn't going to do that particular. It's not going to allow me to go any lighter than I have really. And bring the reds into it to try and get that brightness that we can't get by mixing the two together straight off. The sun came right round then, so I had to work on the background a little. I think our fish are showing all right now. I think I'd like to go a bit darker around them. Not easy, because as I say, the paint won't lift out any more than I have. See if we can get the marks that are required for the marks of a fish. Right, what I'd like to do now is experiment a bit further and as I say, I could totally wreck it. Some would say that was done. I would say I want to go back in with a bit more colour here yet. Come around these fish more and bring them out. A bit more translucency to it. With these colours coming across them, maybe like this. I'm afraid that the brightness of these watercolours that I wanted has just died on these. I cannot get the effects that I want with watercolour. It's just gone dead. So unless I can find a way of pushing these lovely... Let's just try a bit of beautiful blue in here and see if we can bring it back to life with that maybe. Because it's dead at the moment. I'm wondering whether to, even as it's not really as successful as I would like, I'm wondering whether to use even pastel on it to try and bring those colours out. Let's just see if I can come back and just try and lift out some of the ripples coming in and around, and even behind here if we can, right through the beak. I don't think I can do much more with that as a watercolour unless I want to go back in with pastels. So I think we'll call that an interesting experiment. I just touch up a few darks here and there. Well, I've got to this stage of it, taking a look at it and think, well, it's still too dull and too dark and it's lost life because I can't bring out those lights. So I'm going to actually go up here and darken the whole of that area, because so I'm not happy with it still, and want to work on it a bit more yet, I think so. I'm going to try and bring this out with pastel. I don't think it really works as a watercolour, so we'll just try with some pastel and see how it goes. It's interesting now, we're getting some interesting effects with it, and this is what I was after all. Feeling of movement, so I'm going to use this as an example of an experiment which may still come out yet, but where we show how we bring the watercolour back, if anything. Now, because I couldn't get the lightness I wanted in with the watercolours, let's see what I can do with the pastels. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? We can really bring out these. So we can totally rework it. It shows what we can do with. I've reworked that in pastel over the watercolour because I wasn't happy with the watercolour at all. I'll have another go at that. Now I've had to practice and loosened up another day and do it much more simply. And I've tried to bring this back to life then with pastel over the top.